And welcome to Monday. This is a very special Monday because we have Tommy Hinkley here today, the actor Tommy Hinkley, which if you don't know Tommy, he's one of the coolest guys in the world. Hi, there's Todd Lee, one of the coolest guys in the world. It is Monday again. Here we are again on a Monday. I don't know. It's really getting kind of weird, isn't it? So speaking of weird, this is a weird show. For those of you who may not have seen the show before, you set aside, you take your news cycle and you put it in the news cycle rack, maybe put a lock on it, and then you walk into the lunch therapy circle. And this is a place where we give you a little bit of a break, a little mental break from all the horrible news and all the horrible Mondays. Doesn't even have to be Monday in here. Hoy, weird Floy. Yeah, so I've got some robots here. I'm hoping that this week will be Robot Week. But we're gonna explore and we're gonna see what happens. You never know. I've got Tommy waiting in the wings. Let's get into the show. Lunch therapy. Okay, it's time for our breathing, and I need it. I definitely need some breathing today. We're going to take in 3 breaths, and we're going to let them out. And when you bring it into your body, just make sure that you imagine that you had lungs all the way down to your feet. So in through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it out. Yeah, Jose is here. Great to see you, Jose. Yes, it is time to breathe. We've got a great guest today. And then on Friday, I've got an incredible guest as well. So this is going to be a super, super fun week. We have a robot vacuuming the floor right now. Yes. You know, we're like, someday we'll have robots. We already have them. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. And let it go. I have some great video of some animals that I'm going to show you next after we finish breathing. In through the nose, out through the toes. All right, let's get on with the show. Here's a weird kind of hipster framing situation where I have the chat room on the side. Yeah, Ginny loves animals. As we know, she loves ducks. Ducks love grapes. I love cats. Here's a cat. The cat's name is Belle. We're just looking at the back of the cat. Front of the cat. Belle the cat, you know, as they say. You got to bell the cat. And that is Belle the cat of the lore, the cat lore. The phrases, the maxims, the sayings, as it were. Next we have Georgie chewing on rotting wood. For those of you that need your Georgie fix, we've got that. Have to work out that chat room and the other thing because I just don't have the patience for it. Yeah, there's Georgie. Georgie apparently prefers rotting wood, from what I understand. It's softer, you know? If I'm going to chew on wood, I prefer some soft wood. Here's going to be a really cool thing that you're going to love. And it is it's a skunk. And there's a lot of discussion on the show about whether animals are all like our pet animals if you treat them that way. And This is a good example because I would be like, oh my God, it's a skunk. He's going to spray me. In fact, the title of this video is Vicious Skunk Attack. And yet, this guy's petting the skunk. And the skunk is acting, I mean, the skunk is like in that kind of mode, like he wants to fight. He, she, I don't know. But doesn't spray at all. I had a pet skunk. Of course you had a pet skunk, Ginny. I would have guessed that. Not a good idea. They probably get them descented, right? All right, we're moving along because we got to keep moving because we've got some serious stuff to get into with Tommy Hinkley here. Just one other thing that I wanted to show you. This is a cool transportation device that I have never seen before. And maybe some of you have. Ginny, how long did your skunk last? Because we know the pets don't last very long with Ginny. Because she doesn't feed them grapes, she feeds them cake. So this is a special boat that acts like a dolphin. And it actually goes under the water and then out of the water. It's the craziest thing, and I would like to have one. This is in New Zealand. And maybe that's the only place you can do this, I don't know. Ginny had a pet skunk for 3 weeks. Hopefully it did not die. Someday I'm going to have to hear about Ginny's pet skunk. I think this boat is super cool. It's not a submarine. It doesn't go deep in the water. It just skims along the top like a dolphin. With a little more footage that someone has out there on the web. Incredible dolphin-inspired watercraft. So we're going to see it from the outside here. Isn't that nuts? We're going to have to ask Tommy Hinkley if he has one of these things. I saw it just do a flip. All right, that's all we're going to do because we got to get into some crazy stories. It's Crazy Story Monday. And here we go. Got a crazy story I don't understand. Come and have a cup of tea. Seems like I should have got a Netflix deal. Instead I got some therapy. Crazy story, yeah. Crazy story. Okay, so it's Crazy Story Monday. We've got Tommy Hinkley waiting in the wings. I want to show you something because Tommy Hinkley is one of the coolest guys in the world. And I have some, he doesn't know I'm doing this, but I have some proof. This is a clip of Mark Ruffalo. And it's an endorsement.
Play. My cousin Carol Schindler came to visit me in my teens. She was an actress in New York and a comedian, and she played with Chicago City Limits, which was an improv group. And she came with her boyfriend, who was Tommy Hinkley, another actor, and they were the coolest people I'd ever met. And I thought, you know, how cool would it be to do what they do and to be like them. And yeah, that was kind of like the beginning of, well, if you know, maybe I have a chance at this. Tommy Hinkley,
you got to see this.
actor,
We got to see this one more time.
The improv group. And she came with her boyfriend, who was Tommy Hinkley, another actor, and they were the coolest people I'd ever met.
The coolest people Mark Ruffalo ever met. So that's quite an endorsement. So we're going to have one of the coolest people that Mark Ruffalo ever met on the show today, Tommy Hinkley. So Tommy is an actor. I've known him forever. Camel and I have known him for a millennium. And he was on Mad About You. He's in Leatherheads, and he's been in just a ton of stuff, you name it. But he's also a great storyteller and a great friend. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tommy Hinkley. Yeah. Woo! Yeah. Hey, Tommy. How are you doing? It's great to see you.
Yeah, you too, man.
What do you think about that Mark Ruffalo thing? That was cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool because that was just something that, it's hard to put it into words, but yeah, it was cool because, he put it out there.
Yeah. Did you just stumble upon it? I mean, how did you find it? You've seen it before, I take it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure everybody was like, Tommy, you got to see this thing.
Yeah. I'm 60, so I have since forgotten, but I think someone turned me on to it.
Yeah.
I think someone said, "Hey, man, wow," and I'm like, "Oh, wow, who knew?" I just figured it was just something that he, I don't know. It was just such a weird thing. I don't know how much of the clip that you showed.
Yeah.
But I was dating his aunt.
Yeah.
And so we just went down for the weekend, and so I hung out with him and his brother, and we just had a great time. And I was like this a young Bill Murray-ish guy. I was crazy. I had one of those bucket hats, but it was camouflage, and I had plastic leaves and branches in it, and cut off shorts and Converse All-Stars, and just this crazy wacky dude who was 22 years old.
Yeah.
And and thought he was bulletproof. Yeah. And then years go by, not lots of years, but I had moved to LA, and had already done the show, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Mm-hmm. And I went to a friend's Hollywood party, and I walk in the front door, and there's Mark Ruffalo, and I'm like, "Mark?" And he's like, "Tommy, oh my God, Tommy, oh, okay, wait, don't move, I'll be right back." And he runs off, and then like 30 seconds later, he comes back with like two friends. He goes, "Hey, you guys, this is the guy I was telling you about. He's the reason I became an actor." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" Really?
That's
okay.
Great.
And he was at Stella Adler at the time, and so I went and saw him in a play. He did Midsummer Night's Dream, and I'm like, "Holy shit, he's really good."
Yeah. And
so I went and just saw everything he did, everything he was acting in, and he was directing. He was tending bar and managing the Olive, which was one of the early on Fairfax there, which I think it's now called Tart. Mm-hmm. That was one of the first martini bars.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember we were trying to find him an agent. Like I would recommend him, and people wanted yeah, okay, whatever. But he was so talented, and he was handsome, and he had this great charisma. And he said he told me later that he had to go to New York actually to get discovered and then come back to LA. So anyway, it was cool, and cool. I'm really happy for Mark. And he's such a good dude. He's such a great actor.
Yeah. So you've got a crazy story, and is it about your first acting job, or what's your crazy story? Let us know.
Okay, so I had moved to New York to study theater. Yeah. And I studied with an improv group, Chicago City Limits, for a couple years, and I joined a theater group called the Neighborhood Group Theater, and I did that for 2 years. And then I knew it was time to get back to LA. I just felt it. And so I moved back to LA, and it was in September, early September. And I was sleeping on a friend's couch, some fellow actors from my group that had moved out earlier. And so I slept on their couch, and I was there for 2 weeks. And it was about a week at this point. And they were going to take me to my first Hollywood party in West Hollywood. And they were living in Silver Lake. Mm-hmm. And so we go to this party, and it's like 9 o'clock, it's 9:30, and there's nobody there. There's nobody there.
Nobody there.
And they're like, we're going to go. This party isn't happening. And I had just moved from New York. And I'm like, wait, what are you talking about?
It hasn't even
Party's
started
going to start till 11.
Right.
So
people don't know that about LA, that LA is very early to bed kind of people in general, even though we have this reputation that's completely the opposite, I think.
Right.
It's surprising when you get out here. You're like, what? You're going to bed? Are you kidding? It's just starting.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, well, we're going to go, and we're your ride. So you need to. I'm like, I'm me. Yeah. I'm going to get a ride. It's all good. And so I'm staying at the party. They go home, and it's 10 o'clock. It's 10:30. It's 11. It's 11:30. It's midnight, and there's no party. There's a couple people hanging out. And I'm like, wow, okay. So it's not happening. And how am I going to get home? I'm not getting a ride.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, what is that going to be? Like a 3-hour walk back to Silver Lake? Then I better get started. So I'm walking down Melrose. And all of a sudden, up ahead, I see the Improv. I'm like, oh, well, I was a doorman at Catch a Rising Star in New York City, one of the bigger comedy clubs there, especially back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to know some of the comics because I know that they went back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
So I walk in the door, and the first person, as soon as I walk in the door, there's Ron Zimmerman, who's a comedian writer.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, Tommy, you're an actor, right? I'm like, well, yeah. He goes, are you here on vacation or did you move here? I go, I just moved here. He goes, oh, great. Hey, you know Bill Maher, right? I go, yeah, I know Bill. And he goes, well, listen, he's doing a pilot, and I'm a writer on his pilot. And it's like an odd couple, but they're detectives. And we can't find anybody to play his partner. I'm like, okay. And he goes, yeah, it's like Bill's going to play the super smart, long-haired detective that hates violence.
Wait, is this Bill Maher, did you say?
Yeah, Bill Maher.
Bill Maher. Yeah.
And he goes, and you would play the short-haired guy who's dumb and loves violence. I'm like,
Wait a minute. You just got to Hollywood. You're walking. Yeah. You go to the Improv. You run into this guy who's like, I got the part for you, buddy. I wrote it for you. Yeah. Unbelievable.
Right.
Like, this is unbelievable.
But I just got into town.
Yeah.
I've never auditioned for television. I've never done television. I don't know anything about television. And I tell him, no.
What?
I'm not going to come in. Because you know what? I don't want to embarrass you.
You said no?
I said no. I said, I don't want to embarrass you. I've never done anything like this. You're talking about the lead on a show.
That's probably why. That's probably, oh my gosh. Anyway, I won't.
Yeah, so
stop.
he says,
keep going.
So he goes, look, Tommy, please do me a favor. Please come in.
He's like begging you.
We've seen over 200 actors. We can't find this guy. And I'm telling you, you're the guy. Please come in. I'm like, okay, I'll come in. So he sends me the sides. It's 2 scenes. I work on them. And I can't remember, it was like, 2 or 3, 4 days later. I go in. I take a bus to the audition from Silver Lake to Paramount. And I'm waiting outside. And there's a bench outside the executive's office. And I fell asleep.
You fell asleep?
I fell asleep. The casting director comes out and she wakes me up. She's like, did you just fall asleep? I'm like, yeah, I'm so sorry. They go, do you need? No, I'm all good. I'll just come in. And she goes, okay, well, just come in then. I go, yeah, I'll just come in. And so I go in, and I don't remember so much about it, but there was one thing I do remember was there was a giant, like potted plant in this executive's office. Yeah. And there's a line where my character goes, earthquake. And I'm like, earthquake. And I grab the plant and I'm just shaking the plant, earthquake. And they're like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah.
So I'm all done. I walk out and I'm headed to the bus. And she comes out after me. She's like, Tommy, where you got? I got to catch the bus. They go, well, no. They want to sign a test option deal. I'm like, a what? They go, a test option deal. I go, I don't know what that is. They go, well, who's your agent? I go, I don't have an agent. They go, oh my God. Okay.
No way.
Well, I have a friend that's an agent. Let him negotiate your deal, and then you can decide whether you want to stay with him or not. I'm like, okay. And then next thing I know, I got the part, and I'm the lead on this show. It's called Hard Knocks with Bill Maher. It was one of the early Showtime shows, and yeah, and that was it.
That's a crazy story for sure.
Yeah,
I've never even heard a story like that before. It's just unbelievable. It's like they caught you before you had any kind of knowledge about how hard it was.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And it was on Paramount.
Yeah.
So they were going to be doing this, their big summer blockbuster, and it was called Back to the Beach.
Yeah.
Starring Frankie Avalon and Nat Funicello and Lori Loughlin. And because I'm starring on this show, they asked me to come in and read for the part of the best friend, Mountain. And I get the part. And I'm like, wow, this is great. I love Hollywood. And I get the part. And then like a couple weeks go by and I get a call from the producer. And he goes, hey, Tommy, the part of Mountain is yours and we love you. We can't find anybody to play the lead. Would you mind auditioning for the lead? Yeah, sure. I'll audition for the lead. And then I got the part.
Oh my God.
I'm like, oh my God, I've been in town for, a few months now at this point, and I've had 2 auditions and 2 leads.
That's great. Tommy's just like Lana Turner is what Ginny said. I guess she was found in a drugstore or something like that. So how did you become an actor in the first place?
So I wanted to become an elementary school teacher.
You did?
I wanted to teach elementary school because I loved kids, and I thought that is when a kid decides or develops good study habits or not. And my mother was a school teacher. She was an elementary school teacher. And I thought it was pretty cool that it's a little bit different nowadays, but you had your summers off and you had your weekends off. And I'm like, and when you had a cool teacher, you remembered your cool teacher.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be a cool teacher.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So I was going to, because I didn't have the grades, I went to community college and I dropped out. And then I went back and I dropped out again. And I took, then it was summer and then fall came. And I went back again, dropped out again. And school was just not for me. Now, at this point, I kind of felt like a loser because half my friends were halfway through college already at this point and knew what they wanted to do with their life. And the other half that weren't in college were in construction and already started families. And I'm like, fuck. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Okay, fuck. And so I took a year off. And then I thought, I gotta finish a year of school, but I can't do general ed. My brain's not working like that. And so I thought, you know what? To just finish a year of school, don't take any general ed. It doesn't matter what you take. You just can't quit.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at their curriculum and I'm like, what would be the most easy and fun classes? And if there were a lot of girls, that would be a bonus.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at the curriculum and the way my brain works. I mean, other people would think different, but I was like, acting and dancing, how hard can that be? And there'd probably be a lot of girls.
Yeah.
I got straight A's, made the dean's list. First play audition for, I got the lead, View from the Bridge. And then I did West Side Story, got a great part in that. And then I was offered a ballet scholarship.
You were offered a ballet scholarship?
A 2-year ballet scholarship in San Diego.
Did you have some kind of weird aptitude for it? Because you hadn't been training up until this point, and all of a sudden, you are.
Yeah, I mean, I just did the year. I just did the year of dance, of ballet and jazz. And I think the thing is if you were, because I was 6 feet tall and broad shouldered. Mm-hmm. And so in the dance world, that's pretty big.
Yeah.
So if you were built like me and were a great dancer, you would leave town. You would go to San Francisco, Boston, New York, Chicago, wherever.
Yeah.
So the San Diego was left with the smaller dancers. Now, who was going to lift the bigger girls? They needed someone to lift the bigger girls. And I was a great partner. That was my specialty. Yeah. So I did all the lifts. And so I was dancing 6 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and 3 hours on Saturday. And yeah. So
yeah.
I'm at Seaport Village, which is an outdoor mall thing over in the harbor there in San Diego, working at Upstart Crow and Company, which is a coffee house / bookstore.
Bookstore, yeah.
And about maybe there was a time where the New York Cosmos were playing in the professional soccer league, like Super Bowl, and that was in San Diego. So one night, the Cosmo cheerleaders, they come in And one of them hits it off with me. We hit it off together, and she invites me back to her hotel, and we're making out in the in the elevator on the way up.
Yeah.
Super fun. 22 years old. This is awesome.
Yeah.
And she says, hey, here's my number. If you're ever in New York and need a place to stay, give me a call. Okay. 2 weeks go by. An Italian guy with his family comes in, and I'm making him coffee for him and his family. And I'm doing all this stuff. I got the whole thing. I'm putting on a show. And he's like, okay, well, you're putting on a show. But let's see if your coffee's any good. And he's like, wow, that's a great coffee. He goes, I own an Italian restaurant in New York. If you ever come to New York and need a job, here's my number. You call me.
You do make a great cup of coffee, I must say, to this day.
And to this day, I still do.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, now in a 2-week period, I have a place to stay and a job. I'm going to New York.
Yeah.
So that's how I ended up in New York, and then how I became an actor, because it was the only thing I could do.
Do you think in your life you've been able to make decisions quickly? Do you find that you're a person that doesn't like mull things over? Because it sounds like you just make good decisions fairly quickly, or at least decisions that change your life a lot. And you also seem like somebody that can just kind of roll with it.
I'm definitely someone that can roll with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, especially if situations are not great or bad.
Yeah.
I'm like the guy that you would want around. When that earthquake happened in Northridge, people are all panicked, and I'm like calm, cool, went around the neighborhood, checked on everybody, and very calming. But then it was, I don't know whether it was 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, there was a speed bump out in front of our house.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of trucks would go over that. It'd be a big bang. And I would just be like, I just,
really?
I was just like panicked. So I had like the PTSDs and PSTDs, and it was, yeah. So it hit me later, but yeah, when stuff is not good, I'm your guy.
Do you ever get stressed out?
Yeah. I mean, everybody gets a little stressed.
Do you have any kind of techniques that you do to calm yourself down?
I rarely get that. I rarely get like that. I mean, so I would just breathe.
Yeah.
Breathe. I mean, like you do at the beginning of the show. It's so huge. It's one of the easiest, most important things I think you can do. And it sounds so dumb to say, just breathe.
Yeah. It seems to help
I do
a lot,
that anyway.
I find that it helps a lot.
It
I
does?
have no idea. And most people are holding their breath. They have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
you know what that makes me think of, and this is something I think you can relate to.
Yeah.
Is when you're going to an audition.
Yeah.
And you're in a room, and sometimes the room's down the hall, or it's a really big room. But when it's a smaller room and you're right outside the door that's auditioning.
Yeah.
And you can hear the people auditioning for your part inside.
Yeah.
And you maybe can't hear every word, but then you hear them laughing. You're like,
Well, that's when you go into that whole comparison mode that kills everybody. When you sit in the waiting room and you look around, you're like, oh, that guy's probably better for the part, or whatever it is, or they're laughing in there.
Yeah.
And then you're dead as soon as you start comparing. And that, in the story that you told about how you got your first acting job, you weren't into that. You didn't have all that stuff in your head, that anybody else would. In fact, you said no, which I remember Gary Marshall told me one time that was the most powerful word in Hollywood. And he said, Deborah Winger, how she got where she is? It's because she turned down so many parts. And people were just like, we got to find something for her.
We want to be the ones to make her say yes.
Exactly. It's like a challenge. Kamala is saying she wants to hear about the live TV show you were producing and doing. And that was Failsafe, I believe.
Failsafe. That was crazy, and maybe the most pressure I've ever felt. And that would
really
make sense because you're doing live television. We had 2 sound stages, 5 sets, 24 cameras. And on my set was me, Sam Elliott, James Cromwell, and Brian Dennehy. And it was, the thing was, is that I had a smaller part.
Yeah.
That George had given me.
But no matter how small your part is, you could screw it up. The whole thing. If it's live,
I'm going to tell you
continuous, right? Tell me.
Yes. Oh, yeah, it's continuous. And I'm going to tell you that happened, and I'm going to tell you that in a second.
Oh God.
So I have the part of an airman. It's like maybe a line or 2, and maybe just 1 scene. But then he comes to me at some point. He goes, "Hey, Tommy, someone dropped out, and I need you to do this other part. It's a bigger part." I'm like, "Yeah, you bet. Absolutely. Of course." He goes, "Well, let me tell you about it first. You have, among other things, you have a paragraph of technical dialogue that you can't screw up."
No.
Because it's a key. Nightmare. It's a key to the whole thing that solves it all. Oh, no. You cannot screw it up. I'm like, "Yeah, well," and of course I'm like, yeah, you bet. Of course. Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing I'm not good at, it's technical dialogue. I mean, my God, if there's too many, S's or there's, too many big words, what the hell, man? So there's this part, and we rehearse like a play.
Yeah.
And I've never screwed it up. Not once.
Yeah.
Not once did I ever screw it up.
Mm-hmm.
And we had the final run through in the middle of the day that day. So right before we're doing the live show, we're going to do a run through.
Yeah.
I screw it up for the first time. Now all of a sudden, now you're in your head, and I'm like, fuck. So you're on stage the whole time. And then when they go to another sound stage or another scene, you're still there, and you're like, waiting for it to come back to you live. Yeah. And the whole time I'm like, okay, do it. You're going to do this, do it for George. He put a lot of trust in you.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, that's stupid. Yeah. You would do it for your dad. Do it for your dad. He's not around anymore, and he just died. Do it for your dad. And I'm like, well, that's dumb too. You know what? Just be in the moment. You got to you've done it.
Yeah.
Be in the moment, own it, and it'll take care of itself.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it happened, and I nailed it.
Nailed it. Oh, wow.
There was a guy
that
I had one scene with.
I was going to say,
small exchange.
Everyone must have been having the same experience you were having, because that's just the nature of this kind of thing. Yeah.
It's the nature of that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But not everybody, apparently I've come to find out, I came to find out, doesn't take it as seriously.
Yeah, it's your perspective.
So I had this one scene where we have to check on some dials and clocks and whatever.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who it was, has to come in and double check the work. And so we do it, and the scene takes like 15 seconds. And it's like line, and that's it. We each have like one line. The guy that had the one line, it was his only line in the whole thing. When he came up to rehearse it, they go, "Okay, you guys good?" I go, "You know what? I'd like to do it again." And the guy goes, with the one line goes, and the whole thing goes, "Huh, really? You need to rehearse it again?" I'm like, yeah, that's right. I need to rehearse it again.
Yeah, good for you.
So come to do it live. He came out to do his one line, and he screwed it up.
Oh.
He screwed up his one line. His only line, he screwed it up.
Oh, no.
So he exits the scene first and is sitting on the stairs outside. And he opens it up. And he's sitting there with his head in his hands. He is just demolished.
Oh, no.
He's demolished. And I walk by, get halfway down the steps right by his side. I pause and I go, "Don't worry about it. I'm sure nobody noticed." And then just kept on going. I was like, yeah, that's right. That's right, motherfucker. That's what happens.
Wow. That's crazy. Anyway. With that, I guess back then, when they made that, ER was also doing live shows too. That was kind of like a wave of live shows that they were doing. Is that what happened with that?
Yeah, I don't know that they did a lot of them.
Yeah.
I remember them just doing, I think, one.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong. But after the show, all the family members of the people that were in the show, they were at the theater there, and watching it live on a big screen. What they didn't tell them was that the screen would go black whenever there was a commercial.
Uh-huh.
And they didn't know that. So they thought something's gone wrong, and everybody was
Somebody
all
pulled the plug.
Yeah.
Rolling blackout.
So after the show was all done and we all went outside to see our family's all walking towards us. Tracy comes up to me and I just break down sobbing.
Really?
I'm just sobbing.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh my God, honey, I can only imagine." I mean, I can almost get teary-eyed right now. Just the stress of like 5 weeks show just was all just a big relief. But it was crazy. But I was so happy to have done it.
Yeah.
George said, "So listen," because it was actually a pretty big success.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Hey, so you want to do another one?" I'm like, "No, absolutely not." He goes, "Really?" I go, "No, I'm good."
Yeah, I knew a guy that did a commercial for one of the live musicals, and they're doing the commercials live. They do that like once a year now, and I think they were doing Peter Pan. And he said it was one of the most stressful situations, and he said he'll never do it again. He was doing like a Honda commercial where he talked through the whole thing, and he had this and the camera followed him around through the whole commercial, and he had a lot of dialogue. But he said just before he went on, all of a sudden he was like, "I don't know if I can do it," even though they had rehearsed it so many times. It's just that even in a play, you've got tomorrow night and the next night.
Yeah.
So if you screw it up, that's going to happen. But in that, it's just like one take. Here we go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What a great
the thing
story.
about doing a play.
Yeah.
The thing about doing a play is that you have your unless it's a one-hander, you got people there to help you out that have your back. There was one time I was doing a play, and I was killing it. Oh, I was killing it. I was owning it, and I could just feel it. And I came off. I'm like, woo! And I came off, because it was the next scene. I wasn't in it. And I came out like, woo! And everybody's running around, racing around. I'm like, what's going on? They go, "You skipped an entire scene." I'm like, what?
You're like, did it matter? Did anybody notice? There's a great story. When I was working at Steppenwolf Theater, Randy Arney, I believe, who used to be the artistic director of the Geffen Playhouse, he said one time he was supposed to come on stage, and John Malkovich and Gary Sinise were on stage, and he would come in, and it was some kind of military play where they're sitting around in fatigues and reading the paper or whatever. And he was upstairs at Steppenwolf looking through old pictures and lost track of time.
Wait, who was it? Was this
Randy?
John?
Randy Arney was
Randy.
up there.
Okay.
He lost track of time, and all of a sudden, somebody's like, "You have to be on stage." And I guess he said it had been like 5 or 10 minutes at least that he missed his entrance. And apparently, John Malkovich and Gary Sinise were just up there reading the paper and not talking or doing anything for a long period of time. It was and in the theater, like 10 minutes of just not talking.
Yeah.
It's absurd. It's absurd.
Forever.
But apparently, the audience thought it was part of the play.
Yeah.
He came running on and was like freaked out. But they had so just kind of been present in the moment, reading the paper or whatever and chewing gum, that people just thought, "Oh, that's part of the play." They didn't even notice. But he was mortified. He was like, when he tells the story, it's like he starts sweating.
Yeah. It's fun. It's crazy.
Well, thanks, Tommy, for being here on Crazy Story Monday. Those were some crazy stories, I'll tell you. I love it.
It was really fun. I mean, I've been really blessed with, all the people that, I was born in 1960, so I grew up watching 60s and 70s television, and I've had the pleasure of working with all these people that I grew up watching on television.
Yeah.
Eric Estrada and Annette and Frankie and Don Adams and Cindy Williams and Roddy McDowell and, just all these great people, and Connie Stevens, and it's just like, wow, Sally Kellerman, Frank Langella, all these people. I'm like, wow, what a blessed life. So I always feel that I've been very, very fortunate.
And the world has been blessed by you, according to Mark Ruffalo and me.
Well,
so
you're very generous.
So, all right. Thanks, Tommy. We'll see you soon, and stay safe, and your whole family. Say hi to everybody for me and for lunch therapy.
And you
all
too,
right.
my brother.
See you later,
too.
man.
Love.
Take care. Love. Okay. All right. So that's Tommy Hinkley, one of the greatest people around. Checking the chat room. Great show, Tommy. Loved Tracy. So that was some crazy stories. So we're going to do crazy stories as a regular thing now on the show. I don't know, Crazy Story Mondays. We'll see. We'll see how it evolves. I have another crazy story that was given to me by Tommy Sowards, another Tommy, that we're going to investigate. Mary Marks, very cool. Tracy, there we go. There's Tommy's wife, Tracy. So good to have Tommy on the show finally. So, all right, we're gonna go out in usual lunch therapy fashion. We're gonna play a busker, playing some music. I feel really good about this because I found this one. I'm doing a deep dive on YouTube and trying to find the ones that don't have hits. This person had like 10 hits, and she's in Ukraine. And I, want to make sure that these people get heard. So Tommy does make the best coffee ever. Yes. So here they are. This is a girl. Her name is Old Purple Hotel, I think, is what she's called. That's as far as I can tell. And she's in Ukraine. Enjoy. Feel free to dance. Tommy is the best baker and coffee maker. I'm going to try not to talk through this. This is Old Purple Hotel. Go subscribe at Ukrainian Street Music Busking UA. Be the first to break the talent. Beautiful voice. All right. See you tomorrow on Lunch Therapy.